Have you ever had someone call you out for something you didn't even do? Well, that's exactly what happened to me when I was reported for pool trespassing. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the kicker. I'm not even part of the HOA that claimed I was trespassing. So how did this whole mess unfold? Let me take you through it. It all started when I was enjoying a peaceful day by the pool, just trying to cool off from the heat. Out of nowhere, this woman, let's call her that HOA Karen, approaches and starts grilling me about my presence. Apparently, she was convinced I was violating some HOA rules. I was totally confused. She went off about me being on private property, demanding to know who I was and why I was there. But here's the twist. I don't even live in her HOA. So why was she so sure I didn't belong? Was she just having a bad day, or was this something more? Stay tuned because what happens next is even crazier. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss the rest of this story because the truth is about to come out, and it's not what anyone expects. At first, I thought maybe I was misunderstanding her, but nope. She was absolutely convinced I was trespassing. She started giving me this whole lecture about HOA rules and how everything was strictly monitored. I tried to explain that I wasn't even a member of her HOA, but she wasn't having it. She just kept going on about how they take security seriously and that I was on private property. The whole thing felt bizarre, like I was just a regular person enjoying a swim, not some criminal. I wasn't about to argue with her right there by the pool, so I decided to just gather my stuff and head out. But as I was walking away, she was still watching me, making sure I didn't sneak back in or do anything else she deemed suspicious. It was starting to feel like I was in some weird, unspoken movie with her playing the role of the overzealous neighborhood enforcer. Once I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Something wasn't adding up. Why had she singled me out? Was it just because I wasn't from around here, or did she have a personal vendetta? And why hadn't she even bothered to ask if I lived in the neighborhood before going straight to the trespassing accusation? I decided I needed to dig deeper into this HOA and figure out what the real story was. Little did I know, my curiosity was about to open up a whole new can of worms. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. I mean, I had just moved into the area not too long ago, and I had never even heard of this HOA before. I knew there were a couple of communities nearby that had HOA rules, but I wasn't a part of any of them. I was just living in an apartment that didn't belong to one. But there she was, acting like I had broken some major rule, like I was some kind of outsider, unworthy of being near their precious pool. The next day, I decided to do some research. I went online and tried to dig up anything I could about this HOA, its rules, its members, and whether or not I was even close enough to their boundaries to be considered in their jurisdiction. What I found only added to the confusion. There were no clear signs anywhere saying I had crossed some invisible line into HOA territory. As far as I could tell, the pool wasn't even part of the HOA's property, it was a public access area. But how could that be? Why would the HOA care so much if the pool was public? That's when I started looking into the woman who'd confronted me. I learned she had a reputation around the neighborhood, something about being overly involved in things that weren't her business. Neighbors had mentioned her name in passing, and it seemed like she was always on some crusade to enforce rules that weren't even hers to enforce. Could this be just another case of her taking things way too far? I had to find out, but as I planned to confront her, I realized there was more at play here than just one overzealous neighbor. The deeper I dug, the more questions popped up. It didn't just feel like a misunderstanding anymore. It felt like I was being drawn into something bigger, and I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. Was I the only one being targeted, or was there something much darker hiding beneath the surface of this seemingly quiet neighborhood? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious everything seemed. This wasn't just about me and some random pool incident anymore. It felt like I had stumbled into something bigger. Something that was hidden just under the surface of the neighborhood's perfect facade. Every piece of information I uncovered seemed to pull me deeper into a web I wasn't sure I wanted to be in. A couple of days later, I decided to visit the HOA office to get some answers. As soon as I walked in, I could feel the tension in the air. The receptionist, who barely looked up from her desk, gave me a half smile, almost like she was expecting me. I asked her about the pool area and the property lines, but she was surprisingly vague, offering no real answers, just a lot of, "we'll get back to you" responses. Something wasn't right. Why was everyone in this office so guarded? The more I pushed, the more I felt like they were avoiding telling me something important. Before I could dig any deeper, I received a call, an unexpected one, from none other than the HOA Karen herself. Her voice was cold, clipped, and much more serious this time. "I know what you're trying to do," she said, cutting right to the chase. "I suggest you stop looking into things that don't concern you." Her words sent a chill down my spine. How did she know I was investigating her? Had she been watching me? Before I could respond, she hung up. My heart was racing. I realized then that this wasn't just a case of someone having a bad day. I was in the middle of something far more dangerous than I ever imagined. The puzzle pieces were starting to fit together in ways I wasn't ready for, but I couldn't back down now. Whatever she was hiding, I had to know. I had to find out the truth before it was too late. I barely had time to process what had just happened when I got an even more unsettling call, this time from a number I didn't recognize. Hesitant, I answered, and a voice on the other end spoke with an eerily calm tone. "I suggest you stop digging into the HOA," the voice said, matching the same coldness of the woman I'd spoken to earlier. "You're not going to like what you uncover. Trust me." I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. Was this a warning? Was someone else involved in all this, or was it just her, trying to scare me off? I tried to keep my composure, but my mind was racing. Whoever this person was, they clearly knew too much about what I'd been up to. Was I being watched? But just as I was about to hang up, the person added one more line that sent everything into a tailspin. "You think you're the only one she's been doing this to." The voice dropped to a whisper. "You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. She's not just a Karen, she's part of something much bigger." Before I could ask who they were, the line went dead. Suddenly, everything felt even more dangerous. What did they mean by that? I had assumed the HOA Karen was just one overzealous neighbor, but now it sounded like there was a whole network of people behind her. A system in place to intimidate and control others. Was this something that went beyond just a few neighborhood rules? I couldn't stop now, but with every answer I uncovered, the danger was growing. Someone wanted to keep their secrets hidden at all costs. The more I learned, the more I realized how little I knew about the situation, and the more I feared that finding out the truth could put me in a position I wasn't prepared for. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was spiraling out of control, but at that moment, something inside me snapped. I knew I had to go straight to the heart of this. I had to confront her. No more second-guessing. I headed back to the HOA office, determined to get answers I didn't even fully know I was looking for. When I arrived, the office was eerily quiet. The receptionist gave me the same half smile, but this time I didn't let it faze me. I demanded to speak to someone in charge, and after a few minutes of hesitation, they finally led me to the back office. There, standing in front of me, was the HOA Karen herself, but she wasn't alone. The same coldness in her eyes was now matched by two men in suits who stood just behind her, watching me with an unsettling intensity. Before I could even speak, she smiled, almost smugly. "You shouldn't have come here, but now that you're here, I guess we can finally get this over with." One of the men stepped forward, and I felt a sudden surge of fear. "You've been poking around where you shouldn't. You've uncovered things we're not ready for," he said, his voice calm but threatening. "We don't take kindly to people digging into our business." I took a deep breath, not backing down. What business? Why all the secrecy? What's really going on here? Then, with a chilling smile, HOA Karen finally spoke up. "You think this is about a pool? You think it's about some silly neighborhood rules. She shook her head. No, this is about control, about keeping things the way we want them. And you, my friend, have just become a problem. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying, but before I could respond, she turned to one of the men. Take care of it. The man stepped forward, and for a split second I thought I was done for. But then, just as he reached for me, something unexpected happened. Another figure, someone I hadn't seen, burst into the room, slamming the door open. It was one of the neighbors I had spoken to earlier, someone who'd mentioned the HOA in passing. They came charging in, shouting at the men, causing them to hesitate for just a moment. "Leave him alone," the neighbor shouted. "You have no right to do this." That moment of hesitation was enough. In a blur, I grabbed my phone and started recording. "You're not getting away with this," I said, my voice shaky but determined. The men paused, and for a brief moment, everything stopped. The tension in the air was thick, as if no one knew what to do next. But just as quickly as it had all started, the atmosphere shifted. HOA Karen's expression faltered, and the men backed off slightly. Before anything else could happen, the neighbor spoke up. "You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't realize how deep this goes," they said, their eyes wide with panic. "They've been running things for years, but the people are waking up. And you." They pointed at me. "You've just started a fire you won't be able to put out." Suddenly, the door swung open again, and this time, it was the police. Apparently, the whole ordeal had been caught on camera. My video, the one I'd secretly recorded, had made it to the right people. The men in suits immediately froze, realizing they were trapped. The truth was out. But as the police started to move in, I caught one last glimpse of HOA Karen. Her eyes weren't just cold anymore. They were filled with something darker, something much more dangerous. And in that moment, I realized that while the fight might have been won, this was far from over. I was about to uncover the real conspiracy behind the HOA, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The police quickly took control of the situation, detaining the men in suits and HOA Karen, who now seemed less powerful than before. As they were escorted out, I couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and disbelief. The truth had finally come to light. The HOA, it turned out, wasn't just a neighborhood management group. It was part of a larger underground network of control, manipulating residents for years. Their tactics were far more sinister than I ever imagined, and the whole operation had been built on intimidation and secrecy. But the battle wasn't over. The video I'd recorded became crucial evidence, leading to a full investigation. Many others, including my neighbor who had intervened, came forward with their stories, revealing how deep the corruption had gone. The HOA Karen, once the enforcer of their rules, was exposed as a key player in the whole operation. As the dust settled, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had opened a door to something much larger than I'd expected. I had taken on a powerful system, and though it was a victory, it was just the beginning. The truth was out, but the story was far from over. I had to wonder what would happen next.